Hey everybody. I'm so into this little bop. It's really a good kickoff for this kind of stream. How y'all doing? We have a few people slowly trickling in, so take your time. I just got here myself. I've had a bunch of meetings and stuff today. How's it going? Hola, Adam. Hey, category, what up? Welcome, welcome. Ahoy! Ahoy! Hey, how's it going? Happy Thursday. Hola, hola. I've had such a just back-to-back busy day, which is good. I like having a lot of things to do, but at the same time, it is quite busy. Hello. Where I've been like working on blog posts, working on demos, coordinating things, you know. I don't know if y'all are aware, but tomorrow is uh I hope that's a greeting. Hello. Tomorrow is Microsoft's 50th birthday. How wild is that? 50. That is so many years. It's hard to fathom that it's that many years old. Like it makes sense. It's a big company. It's an old company, but dang, that's wild. So yeah, mark your calendars. I think stuff is happening tomorrow, which is a very vague way of saying keep an eye out. I think that's about all I can say in that regard. um, but yeah, Microsoft's 50th birthday is tomorrow. I know that there's a bunch of like releases and things happening. I don't know what they are all on, but should be exciting. Hello, welcome. I am from Chicago. I live in downtown Chicago. It's a nice place. What are y'all working on right now? Let's talk about it. I have been working on a React Native app, and I broke something very badly. And I wanted to show it on the stream last week, and it was so broken. And I think I fixed it yesterday, but I'm at a point where I'm just like, it's either fixed or it's like broken forever. I need to reclone my branch or something. But you know, bom dia, welcome. I forgot how to say welcome in Portuguese. I'll do it in Spanish. Bienvenidos. Hello, welcome from Sao Paulo. Wow. Do you all know that this stream exists in Portuguese, by the way? Bem-vindo. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Bem-vindo. This stream exists in Portuguese 2 hours ago. So right now it's 1 p.m. for me. At 11 a.m. for me, the stream is live. I should have a schedule written down somewhere to point at you, but I always forget every single week until I'm actually talking about it. But hey, if you want to listen to my teammate who is actually fluent in Portuguese, she is great. But hello. But yeah, what else are y'all working on? What are you doing? I've been like trying to do a mad rush of actually working on some of my side projects. My goal this half of the year, like through June, is to use one of my domain names, which is a way bigger lift than I thought it would be. But I'm squatting on so many domain names for projects that I want to exist. And so my goal is to just use a domain name. It shouldn't be that hard, but alas, it kind of is. And so I'm working on some projects. We'll see. Let's see. Interviews here. Ooh. Interviewing is a full-time job in itself. So yeah, I imagine side projects would be fun, but interviewing it just like you said, creativity ain't there. It kind of sucks your brain space a little bit where you might have time outside of your interviews, but you don't necessarily have brain cells. I feel like every time I've been in an interviewing situation, it truly is like this is all I can think about. I know that there are other things that I could be doing to be effective with my time, but yeah, whew, it is hard. Very real. The question is, how many domains do you have? No comment. You know, I actually got rid of a bunch recently, aka I let go of some of my dreams. Um, so I think I'm actually less than 10 now. I might have just lied to you, but around there. I drastically reduced the number of domains I have. So I'm feeling good about that generally. But also there's so many projects where I'm just like, "Dang, I bought this so long ago," and I'm just, like, spending money because I hope that this dream can be alive, but kinda sus less than 10. I know, I might have just lied to you. It's actually probably more, but I like to think of it in that general range of it's less than 30 for sure. Definitely more than 5. That's where we're at. "What's up, GitHub? Hello." Um, yeah, things that are happening. Hey, Paul, welcome. There's a lot of things happening that like all will be made clear soon. I I have very strict NDAs and I would like to keep my job, but just know things are coming. And tomorrow is Microsoft's 50th birthday, and so because they are parent company, we're doing stuff. There's things happening. Uncle Satya will probably say something. It'll be cool. Um, and that's all I can say. But just know things are happening. But yeah, outside of that, I'm again personally working on some open source stuff, or at least wanting it to be open source. I feel like I'm curious about your thoughts on this, everyone. Sometimes I start a project and I start it in a private repo and then make it public later once I'm like generally okay with the code existing. But I also like building in public more because then if someone sees a bug, they can just fix it and I can move on with my life and not have to fix it myself. I'm kind of torn because almost everything I make is open source, at least ultimately. But that is a thing I think about. I'm like, how often do you start with a private repo before making it public, or how often do you just start with a public repo? I think I'm about half and half. I'm curious. That's why I always buy domain names after I'm done and just use GitHub pages. Yeah, that's really smart, Victor. That's really smart. I should do that. But alas, sometimes you just want to squat. Spark invites coming? Ah, what a lovely beverage. Hello, Ryan. Welcome. Um, I prefer private and then moving to open mostly. Yeah, the thing is, this could be a whole rant. I'll cut myself off, I promise. But everyone does not care about you as much as you care about you, you know? And so like sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I can't make this repo public. My code is so bad. People will see." People aren't gonna see. Nobody's, like, just going through my repos for fun, or if they are, that would be horrifying. But, yeah, and so I probably could just make all of my repos public at first, but yeah, no, this is like a poll I want to run. I would love to hear your thoughts on if y'all tend to start private or public. Yeah, it'll embarrass you, whatever, but it's just like IRL. Yeah, exactly. Like nobody is noticing like the stain on your shirt as much as you notice the stain on your shirt, you know? Yeah, exactly. They're stuck in their heads. You're building a clock app with React and TypeScript for different time zones and also displays developer quotes. Time zones? You're very brave, Paul. When I first read, "Do you know any APIs I can use for developer quotes?" I thought you were going to say, "Do you know any APIs I can use for referencing time zones?" Because time zones I one of my domain names is for a project that was supposed to be about time zones, and I've fully given up on it. That's a domain name I'm gonna let expire because time zones scare me. But for developer quotes, I don't know. There was one that this is totally me just remembering the past. I don't know if this still exists. I think this is like a 6-year-old memory I'm pulling out of my brain. There was like a programmer dad joke API that I think Scott Hanselman contributed to or something. I might have just made that up, but now I'm going to Google it really quick just to see if that exists. I think it was, yeah, programmer dad joke API. I'm just gonna. Okay, there's a lot of dad joke APIs, which is not what you're asking for, but there's specifically a programmer dad jokes one. Oh, it wasn't Scott Hanselman, it was Wes Boss. Okay, here, I'll pull it up. Oh, my GitHub's in light mode right now. Why? One second. I will share my screen so that way you can see what I'm talking about. Doobity-bee-da-ba-da-ba-dum. Yeah. Okay. This one. Okay. Programming style or dad style programming jokes. This was one of my contributions from years ago, where it has just a bunch of funny like nerdy puns and stuff. This is not what you asked for, but it does have some fun jokes and quotes. At the same time, this feels the API for developer quotes. I feel like that's a whole side project in itself. These are pretty funny. Anyway, talking about private repos, it's a good thing to think about. It's a habit from taking classes and having to keep them private. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because you said this, I'm going to look at every one of your repos every day. Don't! Ah! You're going to see my shame. Hola. Hello. I prefer public repositories because it's easy to share with friends, but then I change to private when I stop working. Oh, when you stop working on it. I'm the opposite where like I keep it public when I stop working on it because it might be like helpful to someone someday. Because you never know. And that actually happened recently. Generate records. I actually made a script years ago, maybe not crazy number of years ago, 2 years ago, where it was just like how to generate Stripe coupons and promo codes. Tossed it on the internet because I was just like, this script was helpful for me. Maybe I'll use it later. And someone started tweeting about it just like 2 weeks ago saying, I found this script and it totally saved me. This is amazing. So, hey, you never know when some code you wrote might be useful for someone someday. And also, if you're curious, I guess I'll pop the repo in here. Hey. Wait, did I share the dad jokes one in here? Oh, wait, I did. Nice. Cool. Okay. Anyway, let's see. Hey. Is AI going to take your job? No, it is not. I've gone on enough rants about this. It's not going to take your job. We can go deeper into this question if you'd like. But Josh, you're safe. Okay. Gerald, I am a GIS specialist who struggles with coding big time. What clues or advice can you share to help me get up to speed with the programming skills? This is something where all I can really say is practice. Practice. Which is so much easier said than done, but truly like come up with a project you want to build. Generating coupons for Stripe. building a Reddit clone, something that is relevant to something, and just try to build it. And you will probably struggle. It will probably be hard, but I feel like you learn the best when you struggle, and when you're trying to figure out this sort of thing. And like for example, right now I am hardcore struggling trying to build a mobile app. I've never made a mobile app. It is very challenging, but I'm like just slowly but surely working through the React Native code because it's like mostly Reacty. I know React, and it's been a very good learning experience. And I feel like I've learned so much just by kind of forcing myself to practice it and sit down and do it. So it's generic advice, but it's very real. Do you remember how to say your Twitch name? Yes, Jacob. Now I know it's actually Jacob Jacob. Yeah, therapy hour with Cass. Yeah, I promise this is meant to be more of like a coding stream, but enough people have questions that I'm just like, this is kind of fun too. This is your AI boss. Get back to work. No, Uncle Satya, please. Hello. Struggling is indeed important for learning as well. Yeah, like I was talking to someone because I like to Photoshop things and just make memes and stuff. And someone was asking me how I got started, and I was like, it wasn't like taking a course or just being like, I'm going to learn the ins and outs of Photoshop. I downloaded the GIMP, which by the way, GIMP is a cool photo editor, and it just hit its 3.0 release like last week. And that's been like the biggest release in years, like in 5 or more years. Very cool if you want to check out. Oh, where did my screen go? There it is. The GIMP. It is not as fancy as Photoshop in any way, shape, or form. It is very, very basic photo editing. But because when I was wanting to learn photo editing and I was a poor student, I was just like, you know what? I'll download this free program and I'm just gonna make stuff. I'm gonna go for it. And I learned so much about the intricacies of how gradients work, how you do selections and shaping and stuff, things like that, where it was not coding, but it was just like a skill I wanted to pick up. That then when I finally did get Photoshop, I was like, wait, this is so easy. I kind of struggled a lot for nothing, but through the struggle, I learned. So take that lesson. If you don't struggle, you might just get bored. Yeah, that too. What are we building, fam? Yes, I want to know what everybody's building. Right now, I am working on a React Native app, but talking to the chat for a little while. Let's see. I'm starting to learn at Code Academy, and I'll be learning GitHub. Any advice or something you wish you knew before working with GitHub? Ooh, like how to mess with things. I would say, first of all, there's a really excellent series on GitHub's YouTube called GitHub for Beginners. I think there's a short link for it. Let me try to find it before I promise stuff. I think this exists. Oh my gosh, it does. Hurrah. Okay, so gh.io/GFB is GitHub for Beginners. My coworker Kadesha worked on this video series, and it's amazing. And it's just like, here's the basics of what you need to know. It's so helpful. Like anything I say, sure, valuable. Her series is really, really good. So I highly, highly, highly recommend looking at GitHub for Beginners because it is going to save your butt. I think I wish I think Git is a very challenging thing to learn, and because you seem to be a new developer, I'm going to explain the difference. Git is version control software, so it allows you to like check in, and kind of like in video games where you hit a checkpoint and then if you die later you end up back at the checkpoint. It's the same thing with your code, where you can make like checkpoints in your code, and then if you really mess up the code later you can go back. But then it also means that other people can create those checkpoints and you can collaborate and stuff. GitHub is a place to host your coding projects using Git. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I think when I was first using GitHub, it's been a long time, I didn't fully understand how powerful it was to be able to check in my code and everything so regularly. And so I guess the easiest advice I could say is commit early and commit often. When I say commit, I mean make those checkpoints. But then also be very willing to use GitHub to ask for help and get contributions to your code. Okay, let's see. There were other questions. Ask away. Ask away. I always wonder which programming language I should use, more focused on Python. Python's a great language. It's currently the most popular language right now, I think because of AI, because a lot of AI work is done in Python, which is saying something. And so I think Python is a very good route to go. You can do so much with it. That being said, there's no correct answer to this. It really is just kind of like, it depends. The answer will always be it depends when it comes to programming, and that's because depending on what you build, there's different languages that are better for it, and you might just vibe with a different language more than another one, you know? Let's see. Get all the stars you deserve. I like your work. Thanks. I appreciate it. Okay. It's about the destination. Exact. Oh, I'm building something that has global impact. No pressure. Oh, goodness gracious. Good luck. I was actually in like a group chat with coworkers recently where we were talking about like people who kind of quietly make really big impacts on culture and stuff. Where for me, I feel like my impact, which I don't know if it's even that much of an impact, is I made the mild panic emoji, which I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it's fully just like property of the internet now. Like if you look up mild panic emoji, I made that. It's a thing where people are selling it on Etsy and stuff. Dang, that is wild. But anyway, it's kind of fun to see something you made out in the wild. And then someone else I know, someone who I actually used to work with, made the thread emoji. Let me see, Amberly. A friend of mine, Amberly Romo, she worked with me at Netlify back in the day. And I'm sharing her blog because it's cool. She made the thread emoji, and so every time someone is just like, "Hey, I have something to say. Here's the thread," or whatever, that emoji is hers. She made the thread emoji, the yarn emoji, and the safety pin emoji. How wild is that? And then someone else I was talking to said that their friend coined the term ghosting, which I feel like is massive, massive impact, but you know, it's hard to own things once the world takes it, you know? It's kind of fun. Okay, there were comments and I missed them. It's very hard to keep track of comments across LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube. So if I'm ever slow or I miss your comment, I'm sorry. Post it again. Let's see. I really want to work at GitHub. Is there any way to get to know about it somewhere? GitHub.careers. GitHub.careers is the website. I will share it. It's literally the URL is github.careers. There. Job postings go up and down all the time. I couldn't tell you who's hiring right now because things literally change almost daily. But don't ever get discouraged if you apply and then like don't get a role. Just keep applying because there's always new roles that come up. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Explaining the difference. Oh, between Git and GitHub. Nice. I'm glad. I don't seem to understand where to work when working on a repository, a terminal. That's another it depends kind of question. I would say that like depending on where your code runs, I guess. Like, if your code is something that's meant to be run in a terminal, yeah, you could do it all in a terminal. I was, like, such an extreme Vim user for a while that I did literally everything in the terminal, where I would edit in Vim, commit everything in Vim, and just do everything in that space, until I started using VS Code more. Um, you're probably going to use a terminal to at least run your code in some way, unless you have an IDE that runs it for you. Um, but when you want to pull a repository from GitHub or something, if you don't want to use the terminal and like git clone and then whatever the URL is, you could always use the like, GitHub desktop software. I don't know if you used that before, but it is really nice. I'm not trying to be a total shill for the company, by the way. It just happens to be relevant to all of your questions today. But GitHub desktop, it is desktop.github.com. Let me paste it in the chat so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. GitHub Desktop is a software that allows you to clone repos and like do all of the Git things like pushing branches, fetching updates, looking at logs, that sort of thing. It's free, it's easy, it gets the job done. There are a lot of tools out there. Like I know I was about to name some, but I might be making it up. I was about to say like source tree, Git tree. There's something with a tree. There's a lot of Git tower, I think is one. There's a lot of Git software out there that is very, very powerful. I personally just use the terminal for pretty much everything, or I'll use GitHub Desktop if I need to do something very GitHub specific. Let's see. How often to use GitHub Copilot? Ooh, that's a good question. Pretty often these days. I try not to use it as a crutch because I have a massive ego and a problem with control, but it is really good. I'm so biased. I know I'm biased, and I know I'm literally talking on a GitHub channel. But like, for example, I mentioned that I'm working on a React Native app. Yesterday, I was just like, okay, I have this feature I want to implement, but that's going to involve rewriting this part of my context file, this part of this component, making a new file here. And I was like, I had all of the things in my head, and I was like, okay, what if I asked Copilot to do it? Normally, I would just do this myself, but we'll see. So I basically wrote out a specification. I probably gave it too much information, but it was fine. I wrote out a specification saying, I want you to write this function. This is how it should look. This is what it should do. I want you to implement it in this component. This component should talk to this one. And I went really intense in the chat, but then it built everything for me. And it was magical. So I use GitHub Copilot often. I don't use it for everything, but I have found it being more and more magical, and it's been really nice to like. I feel like so much of programming is not the actual coding part. It's like the thinking about how things are done, and being able to do the thinking side more, and then telling the AI like, "Hey, do this thing," and then I can fix whatever bugs it had, because there's always going to be bugs if someone is doing something for you. It's a pretty magical thing. It's been pretty fun. Let's see. I'm studying C++ in university. C++, it depends on who you are. It depends on your brain. As someone who also studied C++ in university, I loathe that language with every fiber of my being. I made a vow I would never write C++ again because it made me so mad. So, I'm sorry that you are dealing with it. Because you're saying like I'm not able to make good logic. Chances are you are able to make good logic. That language is just really, really hard. It works well for some people's brains. I know some people who swear by it, where they're like, no, this is like the perfect way to understand how a computer works, to do all this stuff. And they love pointers and references and doing all of their own memory allocation. Fight through it. You can do it. There are easier languages that you can deal with later. I do think it's a good language to learn because you understand how certain things work under the hood with computers. But don't worry, there's better languages out there. Let's see. What do you think of Linux? Would you ever use it as a main? I love the idea of using it as a main, but I'm too frightened. I like when things are broken, I'm able to ask someone for help and very easily get an answer. And I feel like that is what I get on both Mac and PC. On Linux, I feel like it's a whole lot of DIY, not for everything, but for a lot of things. And I don't have the patience these days to do that much DIY. There was once a time in my life when I was really into building hardware and like low level software stuff. And I was just like, I'm going to build my own computer. I'm going to build my own operating system. And I'm just going to make software that makes other softwares with other operating systems compatible, and it'll be all mine. And then I learned what happiness was and decided not to do that. And I'm very glad that I didn't do that because that's terrible. So, anyway, that's not what Linux is all about. There are options. Linux is cool. I personally don't use it because I don't want to deal with it. That is my answer there. See, I'm going to be hosting a tech meetup for the first time. Ooh, nice. But I'm in a city with no real tech community. How would you suggest I promote it? Honestly, do you have a subreddit for your town? Because I feel like that's been a really great way for a lot of people I know to promote their meetups and stuff. That's really awesome that you're doing that. I love hosting tech meetups. I haven't done one in a long time. Excuse me, but yeah, if you like host or post in your town subreddits and then just like even if you just kind of get the word out at cafes or something, it might be small at first, but I feel like that's how the best meetups start, where it might be like 4 or 5 people at first, at the most. But then slowly, surely, it grows and grows and grows. A great example of this is I was pre-pandemic, so I used to live in Seattle a long time ago. And the Seattle Mechanical Keyboard Meetup used to be tiny, maybe 10 people in a room because people didn't know much about mechanical keyboards. It was whatever. By the time we hit 2019, our meetup was about 300 people. It was a full-on conference of just people showing off all of their mechanical keyboards. I don't have a problem, you do. And it was awesome. It was great. And so I feel like that's one of those things where you might have to be patient with it at first, but you are planting the seed for a tech community to bloom in your town. So that's really, really awesome. I love that you're doing that. A very similar thing happened in Chicago where now I remember I went to a keyboard meetup here and it was like literally in a dark room because they couldn't get the lights to turn on properly. And I think there were maybe 10 of us. I think even less. And now the Chicago Mechanical Keyboard Meetup is so big that they had to move it to a suburb because there wasn't enough space. Like they needed a bigger space, and they needed to end up like having ticket sales that like they had to cut it off because it grew so fast. So anyway, plant the seed, start small, be patient. Chances are things will grow because people look for community a lot. Goodness, there are so many questions. I'm sorry. I am chatting a lot. Yapping and chatting. So let's see what I might have missed. Code spaces. Code spaces is cool. I personally haven't been using them as much just because I haven't. Like I don't actually have a good reason. My coworkers swear by them for just like whipping up a quick demo or building a quick project. Are there careers in web development on GitHub? Yes, for sure. Let's see. Fork is an awesome simple Git client. Ooh, I'll check it out. Let's see. GitHub GH desktop is nice to create a repo, even if clone is faster for cloning. Yeah, I admit, especially on my PC, I have like kind of a funky setup for everything. At GitHub desktop, it's nice to be just like I'm clicking a button, it works, and then I'll open the terminal later. Let's see. Kraken Tower. Oh, yes. Source tree and Git Okay, cool. Um, are there any online free courses you know of that you deem to be worthy going for that can improve a novice or beginner in coding? Free Code Camp is the first one that comes to mind. There's so many out there right now. There's so many just YouTube channels out there right now that are so good. But Free Code Camp, I feel like, is really good, practical, awesome stuff. Um, let's see. There are so many comments across things. Any recommendations for a time zone API? No. Uh, the when I asked someone who builds he builds a lot of open source software, and he built a time zone app that was closed source, and I was like, "How did you do this? How did you do this thing? Please help." He was like, "It was terrible. I literally pulled like the international time zone database and then made some scripts with ChatGPT, and I have to update it like every few weeks." And I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." And he said, "Yeah, don't do what I did." So no, I don't have a recommendation. I'm sure there are ones that exist though. Um, one second. I feel like features of Copilot and others regarding explaining what you want them to do is possibly bad. I feel like that nowadays. I used such stuff for a few weeks and I still feel like my brain changed sometimes. Like I lost some of my problem solving abilities. Or maybe it's just age. Maybe you're just tired. You never know. I think that's real. There's certain things now where like I I was talking with my mom actually recently where she was working on she's trying to like sell some furniture on like Craigslist or Marketplace or whatever. And she was working so hard on making sure her descriptions for her furniture were perfect. And I admit one of the thoughts that came in my head where I was just like, oh, she doesn't know that she could use ChatGPT to just like whip up an ad for this chair. And at the same time, she doesn't need to. She's capable of writing words. But it's wild that that was the first thought that I had in my head where I was just like, oh, I could probably just delegate this to something. Um, I do think that our brains do change when we have a crutch to rely on in some way. And that's why I really try to not use a lot of LLM tools as a crutch, but rather as something that can think and implement alongside me. I don't want to lose my coding abilities and I don't want to lose my communication abilities. And so I really try to do as much as I can upfront. But then at the same time, there's people who are shipping really big, impressive apps who don't worry about this sort of thing. And they're just like, hey, I got it out there in the world and it works. And so I'm sure there's a balance in there somewhere. Yeah. Okay. I use Arch, by the way. Very funny. Um, let's see. When learning coding, does one have to remember the codes in their head? No. I think that's a very flat answer. No. Like even before GitHub Copilot existed and before all of these LLM tools existed, I always had Stack Overflow up or just a bunch of documentation. I feel like as you practice, there's some things that you'll just start to remember over and over again because you've used them so many times. Like I could probably write a bunch of CSS without having to reference most things at this point in my career just because I've used it a ton. Um, and then at the same time, I feel like I have to look up JavaScript slice versus splice constantly because they're just different enough and I don't use them that much that when it comes to it, I'm just like, I can just look it up. You don't need to memorize everything because we have the internet and we have tools and you don't need to know everything to be a confident developer. What up? Are you ready to take the GitHub Foundations exam? Ooh. There's a GitHub Foundations exam. Sorry for the drive-by. Thanks, Andrea. No, that's valuable to know. I didn't realize that there was a prep course. Learn everything that you need to know about the essentials of GitHub. Eh. And there's prizes? Okay. Thanks for the drive-by, Andrea. You need a production assistant for these. I really do, honestly. Um, and once again, I should also probably just yap less. I'm going to look up this short URL. AAV2M2E. So clever and short. GitHub Foundations exam prep. Ooh la la. As a thank you for participating in these discussions, we're awarding 25 exam vouchers. Ooh la la. I've been saying that so much because my toddler says it and it's fun. But oh, this is really cool. It has like introduction to Git and GitHub, introduction to GitHub products, Copilot, PRs, repo history, code spaces. Oh, this is awesome. Cool. Well, go to that. Check it out. Thank you, Andrea, for the drive-by. What is it with mechanical keyboards? They're fun. I actually first got one because I just wanted my desk to look pretty, and then I was like, "Oh, you can also make it sound pretty, and you can also make it feel good." And then it got so deep from there. What switch do you prefer? I do like tactile switches. Brown tactile switches are nice. I personally use Xylence on the day that I stream, where I can pull up. This is the keyboard that I'm using right now. This took me years to put together. Yes, it's just kind of a basic looking keyboard, but the case I got in Korea, the keycaps are a part of a set called SA Oblivion, but the actual numro, these red keys, that I had to collect each individually over time because these were all manufactured once from a specifically rare set. And I literally had to like work with the keycap manufacturer through like donations and volunteering to individually get each of these numbers. Like for a long time, I was missing like a 4 and a 7 or something in the backspace. But anyway, and then underneath it is Xylence keycaps, which are very heavy, tactile, silent keycaps. I love streaming with this one in particular and just doing calls with this one because you can't hear it on my microphone as much. But I have various keyboards back here that have different switches that do different things. And I could talk about this a lot, so I'm stopping. Hello, it's been a while since I last posted. I'm still working on data structures and algorithms, focusing on improving my skills. I took your advice to frame my learning and it's really helping. Yay! Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Yeah, the prepping for those kinds of interviews and stuff is challenging. Honestly, the advice that I have for you is to start applying it outside of just practice. Like start trying to get interviews and practice in a real life setting, or have a friend mock interview you in some way, because doing it solo and doing it under pressure, your brain is very different, and that can really make some changes for you. Let's see. Use AI to teach you, not do your work. Yes, for sure. Balance matters. Oh, hey, Punchy. Let's see. Which one do you prefer learning data structures and algorithms from? YouTube teachers or from a book or from... So I personally know for myself, I don't learn as well via video. Video is really good for giving me like an overview of what I should know, but I learn much better by like reading and doing. It is different from person to person. So it's up to you. For myself, I've learned that like if there is a video of something, it has to be something that like is compelling or entertaining for me personally, just because I if it's a tutorial on a video, it just doesn't work with my brain. It's really good at giving me an overview without giving me the answers. Even though they might answer it in the video, it just won't stick. So it's kind of, once again, a your preference thing. I really liked, book-wise, I liked the book Cracking the Coding Interview. If you don't mind the shameless plug, I have a newsletter actually myself. It's my personal newsletter. It's not GitHub oriented, and I will paste it in the chat. One second. Um, this is my newsletter where it's basically a learning resource that I wish I had when I was learning how to code, where it gives you like articles about what's happening in web development every week, but then it also has practice coding questions every week, and people will submit their answers, and you can see how people have answered it. So anyway, free newsletter if you want to check it out. It's my newsletters. It's been weekly. It's my newsletter's 8th anniversary this weekend. How wild is that? I've been doing this weekly since 2017, which is wild to me that I've been writing my newsletter longer than I've been married. It's wild. But yeah, if you don't mind the shameless plug, that's my newsletter. Check it out. Also, every time there's an anniversary issue, I give away a bunch of free stuff, and there's a bunch of companies offering raffles and everything. And so, once again, not to do too much of a shameless plug, but a little bit of one, now is the time to join so you can enter the raffle for all the free stuff that I'm going to be giving away this weekend. Okay. Anyway, Code Spaces is the code. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Using AI is not cheating any more than Google or Stack Overflow. Yeah, exactly. How do I configure and use GitHub Copilot directly in VS Code Terminal to assist with writing the commit instead of doing it manually? That you do so with actually working, writing your commit manually. That I think you can do some of that with agent mode, which is in VS Code Insiders. But it wouldn't actually run like agent mode will run commands for you. If you want it to assist with writing your commit, you could actually do that with GitHub Copilot chat, theoretically. Theoretically, with GitHub Copilot chat and the GitHub workspace agent, I think what you could do is say, like, given the changes that I've worked on, write a commit message. But I've never tried it. But theoretically, you could. Or what you could do at least is make a commit, push it, make a pull request, and then GitHub Copilot on like github.com can write a summary of your pull request for you. But that depends how you have Copilot set up. But anyway, for actually writing your commit, it runs in the editor, but not as much in the terminal unless you are using insiders in agent mode currently. And once again, Microsoft's birthday is tomorrow. I wonder what interesting things are going to be released in celebration. Okay. Let's see. Hello, we love the lurkers. Thoughts on JetBrains? I haven't used it, but people really seem to love it. That's it. People seem to love it. We need a quick command for that short URL. Yeah. Oh wait, let me actually put the Foundations exam on Twitch too. 1 second. Sorry, again, I have to like paste a link in my setup and then it can go to Twitch and to YouTube. It doesn't let me post it on LinkedIn, but this is where that GitHub certification stuff lives. Let's see. 1 second. Let's see, using VS Code Insiders builds and someone's sometimes getting. Oh, yeah. Ugh. I think if you remember with VS Code Insiders, here's the thing. It's insiders because they release every day. And it's very impressive that they release every single day. But at the same time, when you release every single day, you move fast and break things sometimes. And so I agree with you. Sometimes there's certain things that happen in insiders where I was like, what just happened? And that's just That's the name of the game when it comes to insiders. I've only really used it on some projects, and once again, that's why it's good that Git exists, and so you can always say undo, or you could say, "Oh, wait, I wanna keep, like, half of this and then not use the other half," or whatever. Nobody likes cracking a coding interview, but it gives you prep, for sure. Oh, nice. And look, Andrea's coming in clutch. She posted it on LinkedIn for us. Let's go. Thank you, Andrea. Let's see. To the question about Copilot writing commits, if you use the source control tool in VS Code sidebar, there's a field for writing a commit message. If you click the AI icon there, that'll draft a commit message. Oh, hey, that's super helpful. I didn't know that that existed. Huh. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to play with it. We should write a blog about that. Charlie, you do it. But also I could do it too, I guess. Ah, what a pro tip. Who knew? I should have, apparently. Okay, mine. Okay, do it. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, hashtag clutch. I'll do it if you pay me. No. Sorry. Put it on your own blog. But hey, I'll like post about it for you. How about that? I'll give you I'll pay you an exposure. Um I I have no authority to pay people to post blogs. It would be really cool to say like, "Hey, write for the GitHub blog." Blammo, but that is not my jurisdiction. Oh well. Write it on your own blog. I'd love to see it and help promote it. Um There you go. Well, you just did. Yeah. Exposure, am I right? Um wow, I want to play with that now. I didn't know that feature was in there. We'll put you in the newsletter. Aha! Yeah, that. That works. Hmm. Hmm. Um Anyway, does anybody else have any other questions about GitHub and AI stuff? This is yet again one of those days where I was going to write code and then I just didn't because we were chatting so much, and that's okay. Going through the comments. I think I hit up everything. Phew. Phew. So much yapping. It's been fun. I like chatting with all of you. Let's see. Why did you become a programmer? What is your current VS Code theme for the spring season? Do you change yours by season? I became a programmer a long time ago. What's wild is I'm now realizing that it's been about 20 years, which is wild. Yeah, I first started learning how to code when I was relatively young, and I was a very yeah, I know I'm old, right? Um, yeah, no, I was in 8th grade and I was walking home from school and someone told me check out my website like as I was walking home from school, and I was just like, uh wait, you could have one of those? Like, I didn't know you could make your own website. I thought it was only a thing that companies could do. And so I literally went home that day and just like got on the family computer because that's what you do back then, and just started looking up how to make websites and how to do stuff. And I realized I had to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But this was like YouTube barely existed. There were no coding tutorials out there or anything. So I truly was just like viewing the source code of websites and copying it and figuring out how I could do it. And I learned like, okay, if I make an index.html file, that's a home page. Great. And I slowly but surely got a little bit more advanced. And then in those next few years, I started learning Java as well. And this was also before so many IDEs existed. And so I was doing it in Notepad++ and then like hand compiling my Java and seeing if my programs ran. And then eventually I majored in computer science and all that. But You didn't ask when, you asked why. I say this because I loved the idea of building something and being able to share it with people that I cared about. And the concept of being able to share my code, share my websites with friends, with family, and even if it was just silly things. One of my first websites was a noses gallery where I literally just collected pictures of noses and put it on a website. Silly, but hey, I learned a whole lot about the image tag back then and how I could like resize certain things before phones came out, smartphones came out. So anyway, that I loved the idea of being able to build something from basically nothing and share it. And so that's very much how it started, and that's kind of driven a lot of what I like to do today. And nowadays, I really like just teaching people how to build and build better, which is why I'm here with you today. Um, my favorite VS Code theme, I really like one called Horizon, but it's not maintained anymore. Um, and so I'm currently just using the VS Code defaults, which is not very exciting. I really liked one called Hack the Box too. That's good. Are there any active efforts that you know of by model implementers to train their models to generate code other than React? The abundance of React seems to make it the default, and I think the inherent risks and issues with that are obvious. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing over time on the internet because I agree with you. I like React and I know React. But at the same time, when you train things on things that already exist, it solidifies bias. And that could be about anything, not just React. It could be about much more serious topics that we probably shouldn't talk about on a work-related stream. But like the topics we train it on are ingrained in the words that have already been written and the things that have already been produced. And I think that's where it's important to have a diversity of opinions in the people updating these models, creating these models. I think that honestly, no, I don't know of any active efforts to generate code other than React. That being said, I think that's where a lot of I think that's where like fine tuning helps and building what's it called? The model context protocol. I wrote a blog about what that is, but it hasn't been published yet. Long story short, it's a standard for connecting LLMs and AI assistants to data and tools. I think as people start establishing some of those standards to be able to put more real world data into LLMs to provide the correct context, it won't matter how the models are implemented as much as the tools. And so luckily, I don't think this will have to be a thing you worry about, if that makes sense. I think it'll be the tools that are implemented with it. Does that make sense? That blog will come out more and we'll talk a little bit more about it soon. But yeah, I think we don't have to necessarily train the models as much as we update the tooling that is built on top of the models. The end. Let's see. Why did I choose my profession as a developer? I like building things and job security, if I'm being honest. I heard MySpace created many young programmers. It absolutely did. Between MySpace and Neopets, there's a whole generation of developers who started on those platforms. 100%. I know many people. And honestly, I refined a whole lot of my CSS skills with Neopets, let's be real. Your favorite theme was also deprecated. No. Oh yeah, I do like Sarah Drasner's Night Owl theme. That's a good one. What is your favorite programming language? Not Java. I learned Java because that was what in school when that there was an AP computer science exam and it was in Java. So that's why I learned Java when I was young. And there's still a whole lot of Java in my head where like if I do like of a data structures and algorithms interview, I default to Java because that was so deeply ingrained. But I like JavaScript now. Let's see, what are the best courses to take to develop my AI comprehension and skills? Depends on what in AI you want to learn. I highly recommend some of the videos just on GitHub's YouTube. Like you are on it right now. I can see you're on GitHub's YouTube. Look at some of the videos that is under the GitHub for Beginners series because they're doing an AI course right now. That's pretty cool. I've definitely found that AI coding tools are better at React and JavaScript, TypeScript, and Python than other languages and frameworks. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be how it is for a while until more tooling and data is compatible with, again, the model context protocol, which is connecting LLMs to data and tools, and being able to extrapolate context better, for sure. I'll need to read up on MCP. Yeah, once again, I literally drafted the blog post and then joined this live stream. My blog post should be out in the next week. And that explains what MCP is and how you can work with it. Let's see. Your first live on LinkedIn. Welcome. Hello, Wilt. I also just noticed what time it is. I gotta go to a meeting. But it was lovely chatting with all of you. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. We do this every Thursday, where if you are, for example, in a later time zone, we're on a streak of 3 weeks with no coding. I know, right? But we talked about code. Hey. So we do this every Thursday, and we have various different streams. And so there's one at, oh my gosh, it's 2 p.m. my time. There's one at like 5 a.m. my time, 10 a.m. GMT, that is very friendly for EU, UK, etc. time zones. I'm always here at this time on Thursdays, or one of my teammates might be, depending on how we rotate it. There's also a Portuguese live stream that is 2 hours before this one. And then we're also going to start a Latin American one in Spanish directly after this one. And so you'll catch a stream at some point. And then, so Thursdays are always Rubber Duck Thursdays, where our team just, chances are there's going to be someone streaming on a Thursday. On Fridays, we have Open Source Fridays, where we interview open source maintainers, and it's always cool to see what they have to say and chat with them and stuff. They're very cool people. Until then, work on some projects, use some domain names, come back next week and tell me what you worked on. I'm trying to like log names that I've been seeing week over week. So I'll see you next week. And I'd love to see what y'all have been working on since then. Okay, or until then. Talk to you later. Bye.